Fantasy Football Universe, what is going on? We are back with another game day Devy preview. College football is back for week 2, and I am joined by a very special guest that we'll get into right after the intro. Fantasy Football Universe, how is it going? I am S.C. Romero. You can follow me at X on at the PPR. So here to bring you our Devy Game Day preview, and I am joined by a very special friend, one of my favorite colleagues when it comes to talking Devy football, my man Spencer at Beckwald Sports. Spencer, how's it going today?
It's going great. I'm excited for a great slate of games. We're gonna have a good
Yes,
show
sir.
here.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I mean, yeah, there's tons of games. We're week 2. Week 1 had its fun times. Now we're getting into week 2 to see exactly what it's all about, right? Seeing what these teams are made of, and as we progress through the season, maybe we'll see some more upsets. But let's just get right into it because we're starting off with a banger early, and that is number 3 Texas at number 10 Michigan. Texas is going to the Big House. They are favorite though with a -6.5 spread. But what are your thoughts on this game?
I think honestly, Michigan didn't look that great last week. I think Texas is gonna cover this game.
Oh,
I know we got defending champs. The defense is always gonna
mhm.
be something to put up with, but that offense, I don't know.
Yeah, they really look like a new monster going into the SEC. Someone that can actually do some good work there. I mean, Quinn Ewers looked pretty good. The surprise there for me was wide receiver Ryan Wingo, right? The freshman wide receiver going out there last year, putting in some work and actually led the team as far as yards, receiving yards. Had 70 receiving yards in week 1, leading the team at 4 receptions behind Isaiah Bond by 1 with 5. But then also you have Matthew Golden, who had 2 touchdowns. He had just a field stretcher, had 2 touchdowns, 50 yards, and 3 receptions. The biggest part, I think, why Texas was pretty good, last week as well, was their running game was pretty well. You had Jared Gibson and Jadon Blue both running for over 5 yards per carry. And I think that's going to be interesting, right? Because we lost Cedric Baxter earlier, who was Debbie Darling, if you will, to a lot of players or a lot of people that played Debbie out for the season, right? So the question was who was going to step in between Jared Gibson and Jadon Blue, and they both really came out and did some good things there too. So Michigan is definitely going to have their hand full, but at the same time, they have some players too. Colston Loveland look really good, right? Colston Loveland, tight end. A lot of people have him as the tight end one going in to the season as well, and he didn't disappoint. Last week, 8 receptions, 87 yards, and 1 touchdown. The thing was, he was really the only thing going for the Michigan offense as far as the receiving side, or the receiving end. No one really stepped up there as well. And then they had some good running backs too. Donovan Edwards and Killian Mullins, both did well. Mullins did better. Donovan Edwards only 2.7 yards per carry, where Mullins had 6.1. So it's going to be interesting to see what that spread is too. On my FFU prospect pulse, I targeted the running backs on both sides because if they're running two-headed monsters, both of them got to keep it going, right? To keep their legs fresh, especially in some games like this where the defenses are going to hit hard. They're going to bring it and they're going to make sure they're, bringing everything. And like you said, defending champs, right? They have a lot to do for them. So it's going to be interesting to see what they can do there as well. As far as the spread, yeah, I think Texan covers because I think they could win by 10 minimum at least. But Michigan, man, at the big house, man, that's not easy to go in there and win. So that's gonna be a fun one to watch regardless. So that's that's like starting off, this week too. So this is an early game. This is a noon game. So this is exciting. Any last minute thoughts on the game?
Yeah, I think I want to keep an eye on Ryan Wingo as well. True freshman kind of coming out like that, making a statement is huge. I know a good chunk of that came kind of like when Texas was already way ahead, but
Mm-hmm.
I think he proved that he can handle it. Trey Wisner, I also want to keep an eye on Texas side. I think he punched in a touchdown last week on limited carries, but he looked good when he was doing it. So
Mm-hmm.
a third running back in that room that desperately needs it. And I just want to add that I'm out on Donovan Edwards. He needs to show me something this week, or it's going to be that stock is just going to keep plummeting. He really,
Yeah.
really needs to step up.
Yeah, I was just see that he did enter the draft last year, and he went back, and I think he assumed he was going to be the lead role, get that Blake Corum treatment, if you will, maybe. But they really split up in that week with them. Like I said, him and Mullins, and they're going to have their hands full against two good linebackers, Anthony Hill Jr. and David Benda, who returned back, who was there last year as well. They both know how to get around the ball, know how to get some run stops and get physical at the line as well. So that's going to be very good to see there. Next year, though, we have Bowling Green at number 8, Penn State. Penn State favorite to win 34.5 or minus 34.5. What are your thoughts on this game?
I think that this is probably going to be a blowout, but it's going to be some interesting. I think Bowling Green is going to put up more of a fight than people are expecting. Terrion Stewart is kind of like a sneaky player. I think I don't hear a lot of buzz, but he was PFF's number one player overall in the MAC last year. I think he had a 95 grade on a whole.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't catch, but he can run, and obviously Fan and Junior, Baby Ninjoku as I call him, like he's a great tight end. He's fun to watch. I think those two players could make this closer. It all depends on Alar though, in that
Mm-hmm.
running game. Penn State.
Yeah, no, 100%. Because you mentioned Terry Stewart, and I think it's Penn State, and we've seen teams struggle, right? Like we talked about Oregon last week. We won't talk about that, but we can talk about, what I mean. So,
Yeah,
with Terry Stewart, last week he had 161 yards and 3 touchdowns as well. So, if Penn State's defense is struggling to contain the run, it could be a long, long day for them there too. And then you talked about Drew Alar. Um, Drew Alar has shown flashes of brilliance. He has also shown flashes of, wait, is this the guy we want on our team? Right? And Bowling Green has a senior defensive lineman in Anthony Hawkins who knows how to bring the pressure. Last week he had 2 sacks, and that's someone that if they get in Drew Alar's face, that's the key to the game because Penn State has a good running game, right? Katron actually, I want to see what he's gonna do because last week was the Nick Singleton week,
yeah,
and we've seen it happen time and time again where they just split rotation, they just split work and kind of keep each other fresh. So will Katron get the workload this week, and will he step up and get more than what he did last week? But really, it's gonna be down to Drew Alar. If that pressure is getting to him, that could be the recipe for success, or at least the recipe to keep it closer than what we expect in Bowling Green going against Penn State there. So that's gonna be nice to see there. Um, I I think they cover this though. I mean, I don't
yeah.
see Bowling Green. I think Penn State could get up early, and then it's just they're just dog walking all over it at the point of that too. So any choice of an upset here? Do you think?
I don't see an upset. I could see Bowling Green maybe covering, but I don't see an upset. Yeah, and my one last thought, I just want to say the name Hayden Wallace exploded last week. Just keep an eye, see if he's still the guy. That wide receiver room in Penn State is wide open.
Yeah. Well, you have 5 receptions, I think, over 100 yards and 2 touchdowns.
Yeah,
So
it was a great game.
yeah, so I mean that's again that comes on Aller and staying focused in the pocket, right? I mean, because we know he has the arm strength, but the recipe to beat them is just lock him down, right? Getting the pressure on him because he seems to lose his confidence when the pocket's collapsing around him as well. So that'll be interesting to see, and that could be a way Bowling Green at least covers the spread there for him. Next year we have Arkansas at Oklahoma State, number 16, and OK State actually favored to win minus 10 here. What are your thoughts on this game?
I again, this is going to come down to I could see Arkansas covering this and maybe even upsetting, and it falls on their quarterback Taylor Green.
Mhm.
I kind of he was electric last week. I think I'd love to hear your thoughts on what you think of Taylor Green and whether he
Mhm.
can kind of keep that going.
Yeah, I mean, well, a lot big part of that too was they had a solid running game as well. You had Jaquilin Jackson who put up over 100 yards for them too.
Yeah,
Trying to bring it up here for them. But Taylor Green, as you mentioned, did very well too. Just below 70% completion, and that's gonna be also key. Getting that Oklahoma State defense kind of off guard. And
yeah,
it's a team that if you get them with a good uppercut, you can really do some damage for them too. But Oklahoma State has some top guys too. I talk about linebacker Nick Martin all the time, but then they also have um, safety Trey Rucker as well that can
yeah,
do some damage for them too. Who actually led the team in tackles. So it's very gonna be something for them where Trey Ginn can go out there and do it, but at the same time, um, the recipe for Oklahoma State, and this is where they realized it towards a few weeks in last season, is feed Ollie Gordon.
Yeah.
For the first couple of weeks they weren't doing it last year, and then they started feeding him, and it was like, wait, this is a whole new offense now, and that's a big part for it. Is go out there and feed him because the wide receivers need to really step up, right? Do have a right room. They do have some good talent there, but they can be stopped. And Ollie Gordon is someone where if you're not stopping them, though, they're just going to run all over you. And Arkansas, I think, can get exploited there too.
Yeah.
But on the same end, on their offensive side, if Jaquinton Jackson could go toe to toe with Ollie Gordon, it could be a slobber knocker of a game, if you will. This is a very tight game, one of our tightest ones that we're talking about today. Um, I gotta take Oklahoma State, man, because I like Ollie Gordon. I think he's in contention for the RB1 of the class right now, my RB1. But it's a very tough game, and this is SEC, right? So you always gotta play its factor. SEC play some good defense and everything, so it's gonna be big for them. But I think Oklahoma State can cover this.
Yeah, I tend to agree. I think, the only way that Arkansas kind of covers is they come out that uppercut, as you said, kind of take them off of running the ball. But if they get going, score 2 touchdowns early, they're just
Mhm.
gonna they're just gonna run that down, and Ollie Gordon's gonna go off.
Yeah, yeah, that's a big part. In a lot of games, you just have to, get the first strike, if you will, first blood. And if Arkansas could do that, though, it could be something harder from playing from behind. Because a lot of times when people play from behind, they just lose the running game. We've seen it
Yeah.
happen time and time again, where it's like, why are you still running the ball if it didn't make sense there, right? So that's a big one there. Now here we got a nice one. It's Kansas State number 17 at Tulane. K State is favorite -8.5 right now. Um, Tulane, man. I talked about this game in my prospect post on Fantasy Football Universe. Go check out the website as well. But Tulane got a wide receiver that has been patiently waiting for his time, and it feels like he finally got his opportunity there. And that's Mario Williams, who had 4 receptions for 124 yards. Um, that can be a difference maker. But on the same side, K State has excuse me, a solid quarterback in Avery Johnson. They have DJ Giddens, who's this running back class. We've said it, you've said it, is a very deep class. DJ Giddens is one of those. What are your thoughts on this game?
Yeah, I think, you mentioned Mario there. He finally is getting his chance, and he looked good. But I think K State's gonna kind of take this one. Avery Johnson, he was talk of the town in the preseason. I was very high on him. And it was kind of a mixed week 1. He didn't look very confident in the pocket, and he didn't really get running, but they didn't really need to either. I mean,
Yeah,
Giddens took over.
right,
Um, and I think that's probably going to happen again today. And if Avery Johnson plays better, it's going to be K State's going to put up some numbers and make some noise.
for sure. And Avery Johnson, man, you hit it on the way too, because he didn't need to, but he's also a quarterback that can run. We saw it sometimes last year where he escaped the pocket, extended the play there, and that's huge for K State. And as far as Mario Williams, K State has a strong safety in the back too, and VJ Payne, who's very versatile, who can lock him down too. So this is a solid matchup for me to see Mario Williams, because I really liked him when he came out as a freshman. And then, like I said, he's been patiently waiting for that time to shine. And I feel like he finally got it that too late. And that's what you love to see, right? When people transfer over, it's like, all right, we talk about Malachi Nelson at Boise, right? It's like, you transfer, man, I want to see you go out there and ball, not transfer and just be on the bench again. So Mario Williams is going out there in Tulane, having a good time, and let's see what he can do, because I think if they had that solid receiver there, that's a big part. And also, Tulane's running back Makai Hughes, he struggled last week, and I think that's a big part for them to get him going. He had 4.2 yards per carry. But if he could get the ball rolling, because he's an underrated back as well. Not so to say like top 10 back of the class or anything, but he's an underrated back at Tulane that has some good elusiveness, knows how to get between tackles, and can make good runs as well. So if he could get the ball going, it could definitely be closer to what it is. But I think Kent State could run away with this. I just think in a game like this, we're going to see more Avery Johnson, more DJ Giddens, and the team's just going to have a field day on Tulane here. Next one. This one could be one of yours too, because Georgia Tech 23 at Syracuse, and it's actually a close one too. G Tech -3. What are your thoughts here?
I think that this is a game. I think Syracuse is going to upset. Actually, this is I think the first one that I see an upset coming. Georgia Tech looked really good, but I mean, it's clear at this point FSU was not a good indicator of what a ranked or good college football team is going to be.
Mhm.
Um, so I think Syracuse, Kyle McCord looked really good and very comfortable. I think Syracuse has a chance. I mean, they're a good ACC team, and I think they're going to play really hard today.
Yeah.
And I think there's an upset.
Yeah, I think a lot of eyes were on Colin McCord once he transferred out of Ohio State. Like, wait, what are you doing, bro? But week one, what 354 yards, 4 touchdowns, 69% completion. Looked phenomenal, and they also have LaQuint Allen, a solid running back there too. But on the flip side, the Georgia Tech, man, they had some good guys in Haynes King at quarterback, and then also Jamal Haynes at running back. They have a nice little tandem there going on that they're a team that can, put up rushing numbers in bunches, and I think this is going to be a very good game. And the key to victory is Syracuse stopping that running game. If they can make it one dimensional, make Haynes Kane throw, that's going to be a big part for them to get after it as well. So, um, upset, man. Yeah, if the quarter comes out and plays like he did last year, last week, I think it can't be because I know when he was at Ohio State, we had our questions, right? It's like that the offense doesn't look like it's moving as effectively with Kyle McCord, and then we see him at Syracuse, and it looks like it's thriving, right? So again, you love to see that there, and this one could potentially be the upset, man. But I like Georgia Tech. I think they can, they'll get it, and I think it will be right on the money, -3. So you could take that just the way line, and I just it's gonna be a close game, closer to what we think. It might even be less than -3. Syracuse may
Yeah.
cover. It might be just like a 1 point game there at the very end. So I'm excited to see this one. I think this one's gonna be under the radar for a lot of people because it's not the big names, but this should be a very good game in my opinion.
Yeah, no, it's gonna be a great game. And, I'm kind of curious. I want Singleton Jr. to break out.
Mm-hmm.
He's been so overshadowed so far
Mm-hmm.
by what's that other the other Malik Rutherford,
Mm-hmm.
um, and he really shouldn't be. So I'm hoping to see a little bit more of him today. And on to the Syracuse side, I think you got to watch Gadsden and Zede Haynes. This is going to be good competition for both of them. Gadsden, it might be one of the best tight ends out there right now. Just production wise, he's insane. And Zede, that transfer from Georgia, developed that chemistry with McCord. His speed is unreal.
Mm-hmm.
So if you like guys that run really fast,
Mm-hmm.
that's the receiver that you like. He's one to watch.
Yeah, and Singleton, man, like Eric Singleton, they used him in the rushing game to attack well too. So that was a big part there for him because they kind of exploit him in different areas of the field there. And he's someone to watch. I think he's a very talented receiver, knows how to get some separation, has the speed to break away as well. So that could be something big as well if they're able to shut down Jamal Haynes. Using Singleton in different packages there too for him as well. Um, this one, this one, we may not talk about this one long, but Tennessee Tech at Georgia, number one overall, Georgia's favorite -53. And I say we might not talk about this all, man. I try to go through and look at the games because I want to talk about just both teams, and I try to figure out, all right, what is the case of Tennessee Tech winning? Like, how can they do it here? And even though their quarterback put up 3 touchdowns, I just there's no way. I mean, Georgia should absolutely blow this out the water. Only reason why Tennessee Tech is scoring is because in the fourth quarter, Georgia has every single freshman on the field just trying to see what they can do or something. But what are your thoughts here?
Yeah, it's not. I mean, it's going to be a fun game if you're a Georgia fan. I was looking for the same thing, and I ultimately came up with for Tennessee Tech, nah. Um, that was all I could come up with.
Sure.
I think the most interesting thing about this game is seeing Nate Frazier again.
Mhm.
ETN is going to be on that field, but this is going to be a blowout. So Frazier should get a lot of run again. Um,
Yeah.
but other than that, yeah, it's going to be
Yeah.
starters off by halftime.
And that's a big part because Frazier did really well last week, and like you said, Trevor Etienne was out last week, but he should be back this week. So see what he can do or see what he does in the offense because he's very good in pass catching. Right, he had 100% pass catching targets last year, And so that was a big factor in bringing them in for Carson Beck to have that dual threat type of running back because he is a good runner too. But Nate Fraser looked really well as a true freshman, and at first it was like, man, I thought they were gonna try to rest her, but excuse me, the work he got, it's like I don't know if they really are, man, because I think with Etienne there and Frazier, man, they can definitely have an established just 1-2 punch that just knocks people down consistently. And so this is a game where it's like, okay, ETN probably gets to start, right? What are they gonna do? When is Nate Frazier gonna get in? Is he gonna get in, or are they just gonna have the ETN so until it's a blowout and then we see Frazier there again? But I think last week he earned his spot to say, "Hey, I don't need to just come in here in a blowout. You can put me in, and I can make things happen as well." So that'll be awesome there.
Yeah,
But yeah, I don't see if Georgia Tech loses this, the whole DEVY CFF community is just gonna go crazy, and we're probably never gonna watch college football again. But
yeah,
that'll be big. But they should cover the spread hands down. I mean, even 53, that's a lot though. So I don't know, but I mean they should. They may not, right? If they're like,
yeah,
oh, we're up by 40, we're just good. They coasted it, but I mean, I could see Georgia putting up 60 here easily.
yeah. No, yeah, it's not going to be a game. I mean, I'm honestly surprised that there are even lines out. um,
Yeah,
this is usually one of those games that they just shut it down. So
it's almost like a trap game because you're like, oh yeah, Georgia should cover this, but they could, like I said, be up 40 and then just coast, right, and be like, oh, we're good. We don't need to do
yeah,
anything. We'll just go run it down the rest of the way. So I wouldn't necessarily take this because it's so heavy, but I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if Georgia puts up record breaking numbers here. So we'll see.
yeah.
Um, Next one here is Northern Illinois at Notre Dame. Notre Dame fifth overall. Notre Dame is favored minus 28. What are your thoughts here?
So I think I mean Notre Dame is going to win this one, but I think the line is a bit too heavy-handed with how Northern Illinois kind of looked last week.
Mm-hmm.
Um, they had some pretty explosive offensive plays, and I
Mm-hmm.
kind of think that they could cover minus 28 and a half. Like, that's a very big line for a team that looks like it has a pretty explosive offense that while Notre Dame might be able to shut it down, they're more
Right.
of like a grind and go team than a put 40 on you team.
Right. And with that, when you talk about the explosive, quarterback Ethan Hampton, 90% completion. That's phenomenal, last week. And the best part is he had 5 touchdowns, and each touchdown was to a different wide receiver, which is huge. That's a big part there. Shout out my guy Mike at Dynasty Dogs. How's it going, brother? Thank you for joining. But that was a big one there, and what it just feeding the wide receivers, right? Because a lot of times you see a quarterback that can have 5 touchdowns or so, and then all of a sudden you realize, 2 or 3 of them are to the same receiver. But he spread the ball around. He made sure everyone got involved. And if he's able to do that this week, it could be tough sledding for Notre Dame. I don't know, like you said, if Notre Dame necessarily covers this, I do take them to win there. When Jack Kaiser, their linebackers on the field, the defense looks better. They're definitely someone that could get in your face, and make plays happen there too. And then on top of that, let me just make sure I get my notes here correctly. For Notre Dame, Riley Leonard kind of struggled for them, right? He didn't look as efficient as we thought he would be. So that's gonna be a big part. And if we see some struggling here as good, it's gonna be some red flags to be on Riley Leonard. Because I thought going Notre Dame, he would definitely enhance everything and be a little bit more. What's the word I'm looking for? Just a little bit more effective, I guess you could say, at the
Yeah,
quarterback position. And he didn't look also well. They did win last week as well, but man, that was very hard to watch with Riley Leonard there. So, it, unless he gets it going, Northern Illinois, like I said, with Hampton, I mean, this could end up being like a shootout if Hampton gets it going. So, I'll take Notre Dame, but I must not take the spread here.
yeah. That's I think and I think that key name to watch for Northern Illinois, Trevion Rudolph finally looks healthy. I think he
Mm-hmm.
had over 70 yards from scrimmage last week. He had a massive 60-yard rush, just kind of like an end around where he blew past everybody.
Mm-hmm.
He's been hurt. It feels like 3 years in a row now. It's probably closer to two.
Mm-hmm.
But if he's healthy, that could be the difference in that spread. Um,
For sure. For
but yeah,
sure.
not much else to talk. I agree. Riley Leonard kind of it looked rough. he needs to show something.
Mm. It's at Notre Dame, so I mean, I guess I could give them the benefit if they win. It's because it's at home, but still gonna be a big one.
Yeah.
Uh, this next one is a surprising one too, because Baylor at number 11, Utah. Utah's favorite minus 14 and a half. Um, you messaged me, talk about Cam Rising, how great he looked, right? And 5 touchdowns, three to his tight end, Brant Cute. Both were injured last season. Both came out and had themselves a game. The offense just looks better when Cam Rising's on the field for Utah, right? But on the opposite side, you have a good quarterback in Daquan Finn, who last week threw 2 interceptions as well. So that was very big. And Utah has a defense where you can't really play around with them. Doesn't matter who went into the draft, who's not there with them anymore. They have a good coaching system in play where the Utah defense is always just a slobber knocking, hard hitting, in your face type of defense. What are your thoughts here?
Yeah, I think Utah is probably going to blow it out. They just Cam Rising looked really good. He looked back settled. Brent Queeth is going to be that wild card. He had some really great play. 3 touchdowns on 4 catches last week.
Yeah.
Um, and Dejon Stanley looked explosive as all heck in the passing
Mm-hmm.
game as well. Um, there's not a ton of star power on Utah, but there, as you said, that scheme and that team, they always play hard, they always play tough, and they put their best product out. So
Yeah.
I don't see how Baylor. I don't think Baylor has the talent to keep up. Is
Yeah.
really what it comes down to.
Yeah, 100%. I'm not a Utah fan, being an Oregon fan, but at the same time, I seen Utah firsthand, and like I said, they go in there and they get in your face, right? That defense is very gritty, and I think that's a key to the game and why Cam Rising has so much success because sometimes they put him in good field position too, and it just allows him to find his guys super early and get the touchdowns there too. But the offense as a whole, as I said earlier, it just looks way better with Cam Rising on the field. So we hope he stays healthy because when he's there, the whole team is just better, right? When he's not, it's like, all right, the defense has to step up and keep them in. But when he's there, it's like, okay, they can go toe to toe with the best of them. To be honest, Cam Rising is definitely uh, a quarterback that might be rising. No pun intended. There might be rising your board as he progresses there. But I think they can cover this too. Um, Next year we have Iowa State at Iowa. This is gonna be a good one. Iowa number 21. They are favorite minus 2.5. Because it's not really a home game, right? Iowa State, Iowa. You're gonna have fans there. What are your thoughts here?
Uh, Iowa looked really good on offense last week. I think they put up 40.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I've ever seen Iowa put up 40 points in my life. They're known for that grind and gritty defense, but I mean, Vanderzee, that I think is he a true freshman or is he a redshirt freshman? Yeah,
I
I'm
think
not
he's a
exactly sure,
true.
but he looked great last week. Luke Lockey is somebody that he's challenging for that tight end one this year. He also looked effective, and that defense is always going to be one of the, if not the best defenses in college football.
Mm-hmm.
Iowa State, the receivers especially looked good, but I just don't see them moving the ball. 2.5 feels like probably about right, but I don't see this is going to be a low scoring game. I think we're going to see a return to Iowa's normal offensive ways of
For
winning
sure.
16-7 or 16-14,
Oh,
like that type of just grind it out.
I'm trying to see. So with it, Vanderzee, I mean, this kid is a freaking just a red zone monster. I mean, he has has the length to stretch his hands and catch the pass there as well. But when they find him in the end zone, I mean, this kid just goes up there and gets it. I mean, one of the plays last week was basically a Hail Mary, and he jumped over 5, 6 defenders and made the catch and brought it down for a touchdown. So he looked phenomenal, getting his play time there. Gotta talk about Jay Higgins, the linebacker for Iowa, just a guy that's all around the field, sideline to sideline speed, knows how to get in the face as well to stop the runs there. Actually, let me see. This is I meant to check it earlier too, but Abu Sama, the Iowa State running back, I know he got banged up. I don't know if he is playing though. Let me double check here.
Yeah, I feel
This,
like the news that I was looking at, it didn't seem likely, but I haven't seen an update this morning.
yeah, though he was banged up. Let me see here. Let's see where is he at? I have to go through my C2C leads to see if he's there or not because ESPN doesn't have the right update quite yet for him. So
Yeah, I'm
let's
not seeing
see.
an update yet.
Yeah, so that would be a key. Um, I thought he had him in like every league, and I can't see him anywhere in any of my leagues. That'll be a big part though for him because that's very huge for him. You know, as far as the running game and what he can do, he's definitely an explosive back. But if he's banged up, I mean that's gonna hurt them in general there too. Um, I don't know why I don't see him anywhere. So that'll be something to watch. If Abu Sama for Iowa State does play, you know, Iowa will have their hands tied, you know. But if he doesn't, then you know, I think Iowa could come around with this because that's a huge part of their offense that ends up missing as well. But either way, this should be a fun game to watch. In
Yeah,
2.5, um, I think I take that. I don't know if Iowa covers that. I just again, it's not really a home game, right? You're in their state,
yeah.
so that'll be big for them. Next one here, Jacksonville State at Louisville, number 22, and Louisville favorite 28 and a half. What are your thoughts here?
I mean, Louisville probably covers that. It's, I mean, 28.5 is kind of always a big spread for a team that isn't necessarily the most explosive, but they're a good football team. Ja'Cory Brooks looked really good last week. Yeah, I think Louisville probably covers. Jackson State just doesn't have quite enough there to put it up.
Yeah, and the biggest part here is for Louisville, they really deployed three freshman running backs. You know,
Yeah,
you have Brown that came out, Isaac Brown that came out and did very well. You know, 24.6 yards per carry with 5 touches. You know, but then you also have Watson and Duke Watson, and then Brown and Kajon Brown. You know, both all of them got their time, and all of them were effective as well. You know, everyone over 7 yards per carry there, and so it's very nice to see it. It's rare that you see three freshmen on the field like that, but Louisville made it happen. And they also have Tyler Saw, you know, who did really well there too. You know, having 4 touchdowns last week as well. So that's where I think they can cover it. Jacksonville State, we see them, you know, in the past do well, but that was also when Prime was there, right? So we don't know. They're a good team, but I think Louisville's offense has too much firepower that they can get down the field quickly, and it's just going to have them jump ahead, and they're just going to end up rolling over them in the end there.
yeah. They're and Jacksonville State, their big kind of transfer, Aaron Paul from Georgia. After a couple of years of knee injuries, he was supposed to kind of like make that running game pop off, and he I think it was 1.3 yards a carry, buried
Mm-hmm.
in the depth chart. It just their gambles look like it just didn't pay off for him this year. So gear up for next year. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's going to be Louisville.
Which is sad, but that goes to show on like Debbie teams because I feel like when Paul was coming when he was a freshman, you know, a lot of people were high on him. They're like, oh, he's gonna be great. Injuries happen, and it's like, okay, you know, he's not there. You know, the talent is there, but sometimes, man, when you get those injuries, not that they're necessarily lingering, but they affect your game coming back, right? You lose that step, or maybe you know, mental state. It's hard. You know,
Yeah,
it's hard to come back and say, hey, I'm afraid to get hit again, right? Because I know the trauma or the pain that went through the rehab that I'm afraid to get hit again and go through that all over again. So, not saying that's the case for him, but that does play a big part, you know, when it comes to people like that. So that's gonna be huge, and just seeing how he can bounce back and you know do something well. He transferred for a reason, but also he got recruited to Georgia for a reason. So if we can see the reasons why he got recruited to Georgia, that would be a big part there.
yeah,
Um, Next one, Middle Tennessee at Ole Miss. Ole Miss number 6. Ole Miss favorite -43. This should be an easy cover, right?
yeah. It really should be. That Ole Miss offense looked great last week. And
Yeah,
Middle Tennessee, Vadiato, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. Their
yeah.
quarterback there. Um, he was kind of a sneaky guy that a lot of people were talking about, and he looked kind of rough last week.
Hmm.
It's going to look more rough against Ole Miss, I think. Yeah, Jackson Dart, I think I'm back in. I
Yeah.
was out. I think I might be back in. Trey Harris looks great. Antoine Juice
Hmm.
Wells looked explosive. If he's back full snaps this week, and Caden Lee was also great.
Hmm.
So I think Ole Miss covers easy. That offense looks explosive and fresh.
Yeah, no, I mean, Ole Miss, before the season, you know, were my dark horse to win the SEC. Jackson Darno is a dark horse for some to win the Heisman as well. And, you know, last week, what, 5 touchdowns, you know, so
Yeah,
he definitely shows it. To me, I was comparing him to the Spencer Rattler trajectory, where
Yeah.
there might be a game where it's like, bro, you shouldn't have lost that game, and not necessarily like a Middle Tennessee game, but like a game where it's like y'all were up in it, you just couldn't close it out, right? But that'll be big for him and what he can do there. But I'm excited for Jackson Dartman. I think he has the mindset on what he needs to do, the confidence to go out there and ball. He's been through it, man. He's been through it. You know, he's had slander on his name, but at the same time, he continues to go through and battle and lead his team there as well. And the receivers look great. You know, he looks Trey Harris, like you said, looks phenomenal. A speedy guy that could get in and out of his cuts. And then Juice Wells is a strong physical receiver as well. So those are two guys that can definitely help him and just elevate that. And the running game didn't look, bad as well. You know, what it comes down to is for Middle Tennessee, unfortunately, is I just don't think their offense can hang with the Ole Miss defense, especially as you mentioned, Vadiado. Definitely looked good last season, and for CFF leagues, I think he's a great guy. I wouldn't start him this week, but I think he's a good quarterback to have because I think in the weeks to come he can put up the numbers for you. But this is a week you're not starting him, right? Because I
Yeah.
just the Ole Miss is one of your prime SEC defenses. Where if you think about SEC defense, you're looking at a team like Ole Miss because they're physical. They know how to get there. They have speed to match up against wide receivers. They have guys in the front seven to bring pressure. Princely Manali. I don't think I said that correctly, but they have different guys there as well. So I think that's what it's going to come down to: is Middle Tennessee just can't match up against the defense. Where Ole Miss is going to be able to run pass all over the Middle Tennessee defense there.
Yeah. No, I agree.
Next one here, Florida A&M at Miami, number 12 overall. This one's interesting because on ESPN I could not see a spread, so I did not put one here. But I'm assuming because it was just out the water and they have Miami possibly blown out. But that's also just me assuming because Florida A&M is 2-0. So is there a possible upset here, or is Cam Ward too much?
No, no, no. I think ESPN was probably right to take that down. Florida A&M, they're off to a hot start, and the schedule committee was like, we need to humble you. We're probably gonna win these first two, and here's a humbling. I think with Miami, Cam Ward's gonna do it again. He's probably gonna be sitting at halftime. I think the two names that I'm really curious because it's gonna be a blowout. I want to see Damian Martinez actually take over. He's, hype transfer, talked about with the great guys of this class, and he looked kind of just okay last week. Jordan Lyle, the freshman, I think Mark Fletcher's going to get his work, but I'm not too worried about him. But Jordan Lyle, I want to see pop off, and then Isaiah Horton is kind of a sleeper wide receiver, big guy, very fast. He was 4 for 70 last week. I kind of want to see he's going to get in and playing time because they're up. I think he's a sophomore this year. I'm very curious to see what he does in this game, but it's going to be a blowout.
Yeah, no, I agree. I'm a huge Mark Fletcher fan, so I love that he had 2 touchdowns last week. Martinez, though, from Oregon State, church for raising it. It's actually nice seeing him and Cam Ward play together there too. A big guy I want to watch, is transfer Sam Brown, from
Mm-hmm.
U of H, because at U of H he looked really good, and having him go here, I was like, okay, he's gonna be the guy that they may put in the slot and he may get his targets there. Really didn't do much with his opportunity last week. Had 3 receptions and 19 yards. So I want to see that. That could be more so on, they didn't really need it to happen. Cam Ward was going off and they just looked phenomenal as a whole, as a full team. We know Xavier Restrepo is the wide receiver one. We knew that going in. Didn't really expect Josiah Trader to get much playing time there, freshman there as well. So I was thinking Sam Brown was gonna go out there and be the two, right? Elijah Arario, their tight end looks very well as well. Yeah, that's a sleeper tight end in my opinion because I think he has the versatility and the athleticism to be good at the next level too. I like what I saw in Cam Ward, but I'm curious on how he can spread that ball out more because I think to me the receiving room, including their tight ends, is an underrated room. Like we're not
Yeah.
talking about them enough, but they have talent of some guys that can definitely rise the draft boards as the season prolongs. Of course, that goes against Cam Ward to make sure he's getting to it. But we know Cam Ward has an arm, so we know it's not something where he has to do quick dump offs. We know he can throw it, down the field and stretch it. So it's like which receivers are actually going to make the most out of it and get those plays as well, will be a big part. So that's really what I want to see here because it's Florida A&M. Like the running game probably will happen, right? So that's it may not, but I want to see more of the wide receivers happening because I know Cam Ward's a good quarterback, but I also know Cam Ward is someone that because he relies on his arm strength a lot, that he sometimes forces the turnovers because he's like, I'm just gonna chunk it up. That's like, bro, sometimes you can't necessarily do that, right? So
Yeah.
um I'm excited to see how this receiving room grows and how it develops. You know, it's hard to really give you the full answer after week one. But like, I think as we grow, we're going to see a lot more growth within it, and it's going to be a lot closer to Restrepo than what we saw in week one too.
Yeah. No, and Sam Brown's a good call. I have him, I think, in the Liga record,
Mm-hmm.
Debbie League, or C2C rather.
Oh,
I definitely want to see more. A lot of talk of him as a potential round two guy, and he just
yeah,
didn't look it in week one. So
yeah, no, agreed, agreed. And again, I think that's just a testament where they have some nice talent around them. You know, and the whole receiver room can definitely do well. Um, Here's the next one: South Florida at Alabama, number four. Bama favorite, -31. Thoughts here?
I think Bama should cover this pretty easily. They looked really good. Jalen Milroe looked like again. Jalen Milroe looked much improved.
Yeah.
I think that I'm hoping that we see him pass more this week. He
Mm-hmm.
threw 9 total passes or something like that last week.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't really have to. I think he's going to have to throw a little bit more in this game. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but Byron Brown is a good quarterback. I think he's actually a sleeper. I'm curious to see if he puts up numbers in this game, and that's how they could cover. But Alabama looks high powered once again. Justice Haynes, Jam Miller,
Mm-hmm.
all the pieces come together. And true freshman Ryan Williams was the story last week.
Yeah. And that's gonna be curious to see too. Is again, you talk about growth in wide receiver rooms. Right? I think Alabama, you know, they had plethora of talent. That was a question. They had talent all around. Kobe Pentress, Kendrick Law, Jeremy Bernard, where a lot of people were high on because you have Matt DeWar there, what he can do now, and you know Bernard went with him there, or Kalen DeBoer, excuse me. So that's gonna be huge on is Ryan Rose really gonna be the show? And also, you know, in Justin Haynes, you know, because Jam Miller got the carries, but Justin Haynes, you know, busted out 85-yard run there, and you know had 102 on the day for 4 times. So uh, this is gonna be interesting because with South Florida, man, Byron Brown is a great CFF quarterback. I don't know. I don't think he's gonna be left at the next level. He'll get drafted, maybe, but he's backup. He's not gonna be a starter.
Yeah,
But either way, you know that's okay. I'm not knocking the talent because talent is there, but we didn't see it last week. And if we're not seeing it from him, we're not seeing it from the South Florida offense. And for them to cover the spread, because Alabama should win this, for them to cover the spread, they need Byron Brown to step up and do more. You know, and that comes with the playmaking ability. You know, I don't feel we saw that enough last time. Where you know, go out there, make it known that you can, you know, rush, kind of get the defenses off balance to beat Alabama. And it seems like still, even in the board season, is you have to catch them off guard. You know, you have to make them, you know, do some trick plays, and not necessarily like wildcat or anything like that, but trick plays where it's like do things they're not expected, right? If you're having the wide receiver go on an out route, but then he has to come up the middle last second, then you could hit him right in the middle because people are focused on that out route, whatever it may be. So I really want to see Byron Brown. That's my key guy because for CFF, I think this is a great quarterback. Alabama's gonna be hard, but what it's not about him winning. It's just about how do you go against these tougher opponents, right? And when it
yeah,
comes to the smaller schools facing your big time schools like Alabama, and not that South Florida is necessarily small, but it's about how do you go in at Alabama, how are you going into them and competing, right? It's not about though if you win, phenomenal, but how are you just going in there and compete so you're not getting dog walked on as well. So that'll be big for me to see here.
yeah. No, I fully agree. I think he's got some NFL upside, as you said, backup. But he has to show that he can compete, or he's never going to get touched by an NFL team.
For sure, for sure. This next one. We won't mention wide receiver one because I think the wide receiver one after last week is someone else. But Buffalo at Missouri, number nine. Missouri favorite 34.5. Bird is still my one. I know Chet had a great season, but I just said that we weren't going to mention it. The first thing I said was mentioning it. But, this is actually an interesting game because as much as Burden is the one, Brady Cook, um, it could have just been the matchup. Like I just want to see more. Burden, what, 49 yard, four receptions, and then it was like, all right, they're done with it, right? So um, it could be they're saving it, right, kind of reserving the energy for the tougher matchups there. Buffalo has, shout out my guy Dino, has a big wide receiver in Nick McMillan as well, who can definitely make some plays for them too. But again, you're going Buffalo versus the SEC defense. I think Buffalo or Missouri wins this. Covering the spread, man, it's tough when you get these, but Missouri should be able to handle this. What do you think?
Yeah, Missouri. I agree. Missouri should be able to handle this. I also agree. I want to see more from Burden this week. He's not my wide receiver one. I know I hear you on it, but I kind of want to see him do a little bit more
Sure.
running routes. This isn't exactly the game where he's going to have to, though. This is going to
Yeah,
be just get him out in space. He should have like 200 yards and three touchdowns.
yeah.
I'm curious to see Q1 Lacey got some run last week for
Mhm,
Missouri. Pretty
mhm,
highly touted freshman running back.
mhm.
I kind of wasn't expecting him to get much work early in the season, so I was curious. He looked good. But this
Yeah,
freshman running back class, it was talked about as like, oh, this is a bad class. This isn't a good recruiting class of running backs. But so far, they've shown out pretty well.
yeah. No, agreed, agreed. And these early time, and this is where you kind of get red shirts, right? Because they get them the playing time early because it's against um your I don't want to say weaker, but that's really the key. It's against your weaker
Yeah,
opponents, right? So it's like this is your time where we're gonna get out ahead of the game, and then you're gonna go in there and get some playing time so we can see it, and then you don't really get that down the field anymore either. So this will be big for them to see it, to see someone like Keon Lee. See, I'm curious if we're gonna see Crutchfield, their wide receiver, go on there, but he might just be a full red shirt there. And I'm saying that because I expect a blowout here, but I think Nick McMullen out of Buffalo, can definitely stretch the field and get a big play or two in and be fantasy relevant for you. So, as much as I'm taking Missouri here, if you're getting A1 on Buffalo side, I would say it's that Nick McMillan. After watching the tape, it's like, okay, this guy can go out there and get it there.
yeah.
Um, Next up, we have Kansas, number 19 at Illinois. Kansas favored 4.5, minus 4.5. What are your thoughts here?
Yeah. I think this is actually gonna be a sneaky fun game. Kansas should win, but you never. I think this is gonna be tougher than you expect. Caden Fegan is, I think, a very like. I don't know if he's under the radar. He feels under the radar to me for how good he is.
Mm-hmm,
I think that he's. It's going to be a heavy run game. Devin Neal and Jalen Daniels
mm-hmm.
probably going to get a lot of run. I think it's going to be tight. Um,
Yeah, I feel Caden Fegan majority of people end up scouting the helmet, and because he's at Illinois, people aren't looking at him. But for like us, the DJs that we're talking about these guys in January, or as soon as the football season's over, we're talking about, oh, these are next up, right? Kaden Figue's a phenomenal talent, and he could definitely be the key to the game because if whenever you have a solid running game, you open up more options because you can do fake handoffs, you can do play actions, things like that. Some teams get very, spicy. They do flea flickers more so if they get the running game going, right? So you have these different things that can happen where Caden Fegan can do that. And this is really going to be a battle between Devin Neal and Caden Fegan because I think those are the top weapons for your teams there as far as their rushing attack and what they could do. Devin Neal is my RB3 of the class. I love this guy's a talent. When he became a freshman, I've said it multiple times, he was the most underrated back of the class. And I think we're seeing that he shouldn't be as underrated, so that's why I have him so high behind Ali and Quince on there. But then Luke Altmaier, at Illinois as well, 4 touchdowns already. And that's something too, because Jaden
yeah,
Daniels on the other side, that's one where he's had his struggles. If Devin Neal isn't going, like let's say Illinois' defense shuts down the running game and just doesn't let Devin Neal get anywhere. Can Daniels do it by himself? Can he lead the offense? I think that's a big part because I think If that running game gets shut down and they become one dimensional, it's gonna be a tough day for Kansas. That's any given week. And to me, I think that's how you beat them. Is you gotta shut down Devin Neal. You can't let him get open. You can't let him get the holes. Thing is, he is very elusive, man. He has great contact balance, and he can run out the middle or outside as well. So I'm gonna take them again because I'm high on Devin Neal here. I think they could win this 4.5. I think it's a 1 point game. Not 1 point, but like one score game. So I would take Kansas here, but I think this one has the opportunity to be a sneaky upset. So if you're feeling spicy, I'm not mad if you take Illinois winning this to get some extra cash for you.
Yeah, no, that's sort of how I see it too.
Next one here, Western Michigan at Ohio State, number 2. Ohio State, 37 and a half right now. Without saying Jeremiah Smith. No, I'm just kidding. You can talk about Jeremiah Smith. But what are your thoughts here? I mean, the freshman rookie or freshman wide receiver looked phenomenal. Many people had him as a DEVY overall 101, C2C overall 101. And he really showed out. And, the question, they lost Marvin Harrison Jr., right? Or arguably the best prospect they've had in a while. And now I feel a lot of people are scratching their head like, Marvin who? Like, Smith's here now. So what were your thoughts here?
Yeah, he's a stud. I've never
For
seen
sure.
a freshman wide receiver, specifically wide receiver, come in and just dominate from the snap. I mean, and I understand it wasn't a very competitive game last week. It wasn't good competition, but I mean, he's what like he's just a kid coming in from high school,
Mm-hmm.
walking into college. He's adjusting to his dorm room, to college life, and he goes out there and has 2 touchdowns and 100 yards. I mean, nobody does that.
Right.
Nobody does that. I and that whole Ohio State team, top to bottom, is just so talented. Will Howard looked great. Carnell Tate and Egbuka also looked
Mm-hmm.
great. Amika had that catch that should have been a catch. I can't remember. I think it was overturned, and he just the running backs. You can't forget about the running backs. There's no way that Western Michigan makes this a competitive game. I don't think. There's just so much talent on that Ohio State side, and I think it's going to slowly come together because Judkins didn't even look that good last week, and
Mm-hmm.
once he gets going, it's over.
I think that was the biggest question going in, right? Is how is Travion Henderson and Quinshon Junkins going to split the workload? Henderson was a little bit more efficient, right? 8.1 yards per carry, where Junkins had 4.2. But he still had Junkins was still the primary work order, if you will. He had 13 carries compared to Henderson's 8. So that's going to be the big thing going on. The thing is, Western Michigan, we may see more James People, Jr. there, right,
Yeah,
for Ohio State, which is the true freshman running back, who looked great too. 5 yards per carry there, and also had a touchdown. But with that, because it's going to be a blowout, yeah, I'm not going to be around. It's going to be a blowout. Ohio State's too far. They look great in their offense. And again, with Will Howard there, it just seemed like they were able to move the ball down more efficiently than what we saw with Common Core. Obviously, Common Core got it done, right? They moved it down, but we just saw a lot more with them there. So this is going to be big to see. I want to see more of the running games, because I know they have the wide receivers, right? People, you can argue this is the best wide receiver university in the nation, and with it, we know they can go out there and do their thing. We know Jeremiah Smith's a baller. It'll be nice to see him do it again, but to be honest, it's like I don't really. I almost say I don't want to see it because I do, but I want to see these running backs and what they're doing and how effective they can get it. Get better lanes open as well, to just make it easier for them too. Because when we're getting into the thick of it in the Big Ten games, you're gonna take some more physical defenses, and it's gonna be more reliant on the running game. So maybe it's like, all right, we're gonna get the passes out, play different things to just see how Will Howard does back there. But when it's all said and done, I think we're gonna see more ground and pound from them as we progress there. CFP Nation does their own thing called Devi Darling, so I need to sell out this guy because he was one of their Devi Darlings, and Jalen Buckley. Shout out Buckley, right, for you.
oh
But
yeah,
that's a guy, sophomore running back out of Western Michigan that very elusive, has some speed. And I'm not saying upset, but if they want any chance of covering the spread, Buckley has to get the ball going. He's definitely their primary runner there, and when he's rolling, the team looks good and is rolling as well. So I mean, that's something where I just want to see it. Especially against big games. Like I said, you don't know you go out there and win, but I want to see how you're competing, right? So when he goes out there and competes against Ohio State defense that has a nice physical front seven, if he could evade those tackles and make the plays, that's someone to have on your radar, especially for your CFF leagues, C2C, college side leagues, because that's someone that you want on your team from the smaller schools, right? A lot of times you go to these CFF, C2C drafts and you're drafting the guys that perform big, but you want to make sure that they're still doing well, in your smaller guys because you need replacements, bye week, stuff like that too. Um, Next year, this is gonna be an interesting one. Tennessee number 14 at NC State number 24. Tennessee favorite -9. What are your thoughts here?
I think it's going to be a really good game. I do think Tennessee takes it, but I think that I think NC State covers the spread here. Imaliva looked phenomenal. Dylan Sampson's a guy that I really want to talk about because I think Dylan Sampson could vault himself into that top level of the running back class. He looked extremely good last week. He was kind of off my radar coming into the season. I want to say PFF's elusive rating on him was 300, which I'm pretty sure is about as high as the scale goes. I've never heard of anybody. Usually it's end of season, you're like 85, 90.
Right.
You're like, oh, that's a good elusive rating. For context, I think Blake Corum was like a 30 elusive rating last year. 300 is outrageous.
Yeah.
He made everybody miss. So I want to see him get going. But NC State, Grayson McCall looked bad, but Kevin Conception looked so good.
Mm-hmm.
But they struggled a little bit last week, and that has me nervous.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And I am Lavia, as you mentioned with him as well. The wide receivers, he really fed it around, Thornton, McCoy, and Braswell there. And, I bring this up when I say him. He plays with elegance, man. The way he moves around in that backfield, he just kind of swifts. Like he's just, just moving around just so smoothly. And the way he throws, man, everything in his motion is just so like I said, elegant, man. Just watch him. It's
Yeah.
like watching a violin player just play like an orchestra, man. It's just so beautiful watching him in the backfield, what he can do and make the throws there. But it helps when you have a running back like Dylan Sampson there. As far as NC State, I want to see more of Noah Rogers. That was a guy that transferred from Ohio State. That I know the eyes are on Kevin Concepcion, but I definitely want to see more Noah Rogers there and what he can do there too, because that was somewhere last year when it was Ennis, Carnote, and Rogers, you're like, oh snap, Ohio State has the next big three, and then Rogers, 3 for 43. I need to see more involvement there, especially when they get to teams like Tennessee, for example. They know Kevin Concepcion is their guy, so they know they're going to cover him, right? So you have to have these other guys step up. The tight end there too. Justin Jolly is someone to keep on the radars for them because he's someone there that can make some things happen. But that's a big part for him too, And Jordan Waters looked great though too. So we talk about Tennessee. James Pierce Jr. Had some pressures last week, but it wasn't the 101 I was wanting to see in James Pierce Jr. So if you have someone like Jordan Waters that can make the plays and have the running game be effective early on, this could be something where NC State could potentially pull up the upset. I gotta take the SEC team here, but I definitely think they can do it. It's at NC State, so that could be a big part. Maybe why it's gonna be loud. I feel the NC State crowd is bigger now that Concepcion is on their radars and people know, oh snap, we have a wide receiver that is gonna be a top prospect moving forward until he says he's not. It's all in his hands to lose his draft rankings there. But that's gonna be big. I do think this is a closer game. I think it's gonna be a 3-point score, if anything.
Yeah,
I wouldn't.
I agree.
I wouldn't touch this game, to be honest, because I feel it could very be an upset. So I wouldn't touch it as far as bets go.
Yeah, no, it's one I want to watch but not sweat through.
Right, exactly. I just want to enjoy the players on the field because on both sides of the ball they have playmakers. I just want to enjoy seeing playmakers, and it's gonna be a shootout because we've seen Grayson McCall shoot out as well. We know I am Lavia has the arm talent, so I think this is actually gonna be a pretty high scoring game and a shootout, but a close scoring game too. Next one here. Has to be a bounce back one. Nichols at LSU, number 18. LSU favorite -47.5. After their loss to USC, LSU is thankful for this game because they're gonna go out there and just put it all on the field and be like, look, man, sorry, Nichols, but you're getting the rough end of the stick, and we're just gonna come out here and just dominate you. What are your thoughts here?
Yeah, I mean, after that loss last week, I wouldn't be surprised if LSU keeps their starters for all four.
Yeah,
Um, Noose looked good. He didn't look special to me. Kind of in that like second round NFL draft caliber type of quarterback where he does enough that makes you go, yeah, he could play, but not enough to make you go, he could elevate. But for college, about as good as it gets right
yeah.
now. And his chemistry with Kyron Lacey, who I have as he's a sleeper to be the wide receiver one of the class. I kind of have him around like 3 or 4 in the class right now. He looked great in the first half, and then he disappeared.
Yeah.
They got Aaron Anderson, the Alabama transfer, involved, and Mason Taylor also looked great. But I'm kind of curious to see if Caden Durham gets in after the unfortunate injury to John Emery Jr.
I was about to
Um,
say that Emery go down. Yeah, okay.
yeah, he's done for the year. I think ACL,
Yeah,
which stinks. And then for Nichols, they'll also play football on the fields with LSU today. That's about all I
yeah,
got. It's not going to be great.
yeah, yeah. Like they'll play football for sure. At least we hope. I mean, they
Yeah,
may build their basketball team out there and be like, we just need guys that can go out there and get some catches here.
yeah,
Yeah. The biggest part will be the LSU running game, right? Because we know what the wide receivers are. We know what Nuss is. I mean, we know as a fact that they're good, right? They have it. So who's really gonna step up? Because even last year, I feel their running game was their weakest link on their offense, right?
yeah,
Yeah. So with Emery down, and he had I believe it was schooling last year where he just had to get his grades right to stay on the field, and he necessarily couldn't. There's just a lot of off the field issues on why he was not there. So with him down though, who's gonna step up there? Caden Durham. You talked about the freshman class, how like people weren't really as high on him. He's a good running back. You know, he runs shoulders down, has speed. He has the elusiveness to get outside. He can run up the middle. He can get small. So definitely interesting to see what he can do if he gets it. You know, and I think that's
yeah,
going to be a big focus here because this is a team. No offense, Nichols, but this is a team where it's like if you want to try something new, do it here because if it's not working. You can score on the next play, right? You can do a deep pass, Kyron Lacey. You can do a deep pass to Art Anderson or whoever you need to, Mason Taylor if you need to, and get the play in bunches. So try something new and see what it is. So I think their running backs this week will be on heavy rotation. Just
yeah,
we may end up seeing LSU run the hot hand here with their running backs moving forward. But this is a good game to experiment with the running backs to see all right who has the hot hand right now, who's someone that we could get some more practice reps in during the week for our games leading down the schedule as well. So I'm excited to see that. LSU should beat this spread. I mean, I would be surprised 50-55 here for me on the spread.
yeah.
Um,
No, and that's the other running back. I think Caleb Jackson. He's getting a lot of. I think Felix Sharp of C2C has talked him up a ton.
mhm.
Um, and I didn't see it personally, but he's got to show out this week for sure if he wants
Yeah,
to stave off the rest of that backfield. And he's
for
got
sure.
more opportunity than he ever had.
Like the LSU running backs are good, but it's nothing that I'm like necessarily talking about. You know what I mean? Like they're
Yeah,
good. They play the ball. They play the game really well, but I'm not running to the LSU backfield to say, oh, this is a running back you need on your radar, and that's where I'm saying like, yeah, you definitely need to see who's going to step up, and we may not even see it this week, but it's definitely you want to see all right who's actually going to be doing the work, or who might be the primary back for them as well. Next one, Houston at Oklahoma, number 15. Oklahoma favorite -28. As much as I don't like to say that, man, because I'm originally from Houston, as you know, but Donovan Smith did not look well there. 2 interceptions last week. Just did the Houston offense as a whole look completely different. I mean, he lost a lot of his wide receivers, anyways, in the transfer portal. Jackson Arnold, on the other hand, phenomenal, 4 touchdowns. A lot of people have Jackson Arnold as the QB1 of next year. Taylor Tatum came out, and I think Taylor Tatum can definitely overthrow Grant. He got his work after the blowout was already in place, but I think with the work he was given, he showed he should get to split time with Galvin Saltek. So that's really something I want to see. I know the Dion Burks, have 2 touchdowns if I'm not mistaken, three,
I
two,
think three total. I think two
three.
receiving and one on the ground.
Okay, so three, yeah. No, three in there, three in there. Sorry, just looking at it, three in there.
Okay.
He did get running on the ground now too, but that's big, where I'm not so much into their wide receivers. I'm very curious on this running back battle between Taylor Tatum and Gavin Sawchuk because they both got 5 or 6 carries. Tatum was just more explosive, but again, it was when the game was already out of reach. So was that really on his skill set? Don't get wrong, he has a skill set, but was that on the skill set, or was that the other team already knowing, hey, the game's out of reach, we're give it up? You don't like to see that in college football, but it happens when it's a blowout. You just have these teams start running all over you. So, what are your thoughts here?
Yeah, I pretty much agree with everything. I think Deion Burks is a special receiver. Taylor Tatum, he looked explosive, and I know it was when that game was ending, but I think almost more important, he looked explosive, and Sawchuk looked not. He was
Mhm.
pretty rough going in. There was a huge split in carries in that backfield, so I could see Tatum just chipping in, chipping in. Oklahoma's a team that wants to win, so they're going to do it through any way possible. And Taylor Tatum's one way that they might say, red shirt, who cares? We need to win.
Sure.
Um,
Yeah, no, I
but
mean,
yeah,
I like him. He was someone you could have got in late rounds there in Taylor Tatum. A lot of people were taking your other running back, freshman running backs earlier, and Taylor Tatum was probably RB5, RB6 when it comes to the freshman running backs. But definitely, I think the talent's there, and it's gonna be exciting to see what Arnold does with this offense moving forward. And maybe they could run that tandem out with Sawchuk and Tatum. But this is another game where it's like it should be pretty decent blowout. So what we see Tatum earlier is gonna be what I'm watching here. Um, this next one here, Appalachian State at Clemson, number 25. Clemson favorite 16.5. Is Dabo Sweeney on the hot seat?
almost certainly. Um, Clemson fans have been calling, I think, for him for a few years now. And his comments after last game, it's just not the comments of a coach that is leading a program that should be contending for the national championship every year. And maybe that's hot takey that Clemson should be, but I think that should be their goal is to compete for a national championship.
For sure.
Um,
Well, they've
and
been
he
there.
kind of yeah he's staked it on Klubnik, and that was a bad bet. It looks like he's too inconsistent. Um,
Mhm.
the running backs didn't look great. Maffa's fine, but it didn't look good. Antonio Williams and Brenningston looked really, really good actually, but the rest of the receivers, and I'm kind of curious with Moore and Brian Westco. Do you think they're kind of stuck in Clemson right now, almost like a no escape situation and middling, or do you think that there's hope for Klubnik to step up?
Um, I mean, there's always hope, right? You always want to have hope. That's just being, never will give up, right? So there's always hope, but reality is, yeah, I just don't see that this. I mean, they should win this, right? It's against Appalachian State, but Appalachian State, man, always has a solid running game. They always have guys that can make it happen, and now they have Makai Jackson there. Uh, Clemson, the thing with Clemson, why they're staying in is their defense. I can't remember when it was, but Dabo came out and said, if they're in the transfer portal, they're not good enough to play with us. What?
Yeah,
Like Evan Stewart was just in the transfer portal, bro. Like you could have went to
yeah,
go him. Cam Ward was in the transfer portal. And guess what? I would have taken Cam Ward over Klubnik. Like, what are you talking about, man? And so it's comments like that where it's like, it's like it's you know, take us back to it when cell phones came out, and people were like, "Oh, I don't want a cell phone because I'm not." It's or computers. I'm like, I'm not gonna do that. I'm gonna rely on reading a newspaper for news. Like, I don't want to do it, and yet you're late behind on everything, right? Because the world is advancing, and
yeah,
you got to evolve with it, right? The people that get left behind are the people that don't want to evolve with the world. That's what Clemson is right now. This last year in the transfer portal was the most transfers you've seen of all time, and it was
yep,
going on basically all year. You saw every single day someone entered the transfer portal. Clemson did not make a move on anybody. On anybody, there was over 1,200 different transfers in the transfer portal. Clemson did not go after anybody. They relied on their recruiting, which don't get me wrong is good because there's talent out all around in high school, and that's good that you have a team like Clemson that's like, yo, if we're recruiting you, we're recruiting you. We're not worried about the transfer portal. But you had to evolve with the game. The game is evolving into a transfer portal type of game. The NIL is playing a big factor. And they did nothing to improve their offense. They
yeah,
did they I'm not mad at Klubnik. I'm mad at Sweeney because I do like Klubnik, but because Sweeney didn't do anything to help Klubnik overall, That's where the issue comes in. And now look, you're facing it down. You're down at number 25. You're on the verge of losing. And even if they win this game, if it's closer than 16 and a half, then there's a chance that they can be outside the 25 this next week. If it's an ugly
Yeah,
win, there's a chance. We're going to talk about Oregon here next, and I'll talk about Dan Lanning there. But if it's an ugly win, there's a chance you could get pushed down as well. I mean, Oregon did, right? So, um, I I'm more excited to see the defense right now than the offense, just because I don't see anything new in the offense. It doesn't excite me right now in this offense to even to see what's going to happen. Klubnik
yeah,
was a top quarterback as a freshman. He was number one in the nation for a lot of people. This was a huge part, yet he has really gone down. Like he hasn't gotten better. Like I don't think they've evolved him into doing anything more. He's been the same quarterback since he was as a freshman, and that's bad. And it comes to do with his playmakers there. You had some of them even lead. The great thing is, his wide receiver Antonio Williams, who I was on last year, looked very good, right, in his first
yeah,
year or first week. 76 yards for 6 receptions, so that's great. But again, you had him last year, and the only reason why he didn't get is you had the field of heavy wide receiver room where now he has his chance to go out there and play. So maybe that's the saving grace. But I think Clemson's outside the top 25 this week. I think we're just going to see
yeah,
another team that just steps up and does work and does a better win than Clemson versus App State. So I think they're going to be outside the top 25. But I'm watching the defense. You have Barrett Carter there. You have TJ Parker on the line there. So solid defense, guys, that should be top prospects in the NFL draft as well. But man, that Clemson, man, they got to get their stuff together. And let's look at their schedule real quick. They have NC State next week, so he's on the hot seat. If this is not a big win, Dabo Swinney's on the hot seat. And to be honest, if they get to Florida State undefeated, which I don't think they beat NC State next week, but they play Stanford the week after, then they go to Florida State. If they get to Florida State and lose to Florida State, I think we may see Dabo gone. I
yeah,
just don't. If I'm Clemson, that's what I'm thinking, because I just don't see it, man. This guy he's not understanding where college football is at right now, and that's something that's going to hurt them all season long. And until he's there, it's just going to be a dark cloud over Clemson, in my opinion.
yeah. It's too much complacency, and it's it's that whole thing. If you don't adapt, you're gonna die.
Right,
And I think that's been very obvious for Clemson this past few
right,
years.
right. There's no way you say if they're in the transfer portal, we don't want them on our team. They're not good. Let's put on our team, especially in today's, like I said, this day and age. If he's there next year and if they hit no one in the transfer portal, I pray that Clemson lets him go before the season starts, because it's just gonna shoot himself in the foot. But
Yeah,
speaking on tough wins that you can drop, Boise State at Oregon, number 7, Oregon minus 19. Last week, Oregon won against Idaho 24-14. This is a big game, primetime game at 7 p.m. tonight. Um, After the game, Dan Lanning said, "I'm not disappointed in the result. I'm disappointed in the process." And those words really resonate with me, just in life, right? Because you can go out there and get the results, but the process you do to get it is something that you have to really consider, right? A lot of people become uh, excited about it, right? That they say certain things and are like, "Oh, we're here and we're winning it, and big things are happening." But then at the same time, that like you just said, complacency, right? A win is a win, but it's not a victory, if you will,
right.
right? And last week was a win. It wasn't a victory, man. There was nothing to go and toot the horns about or Oregon. The best part was Ted Johnson had 13 targets, caught 12 of them. Um, the worst part is last week, Boise State, Austin Genty, to some RB1 of the class, RB4 for me, um, it is right now 6 touchdowns and 237 yards.
Yeah,
Oregon struggled last week, and Jency has the electricity to shock the world, and he could do that on the big stage at Austin. And Oregon's gonna have their hands filled with Austin Jency. If they could shut him down, Oregon should dominate. But they lost their explosiveness. I didn't really see the explosiveness last year or last season, not last season, excuse me, last week with them, and that's something I want to see more. Is that Dylan Gabriel, or is it just the offense kind of getting the nerves out of them? But what are your thoughts here?
yeah. I think this is going to be a very close game. I don't want to talk bad on Oregon.
Give it, man. They
But
last week they deserved it.
yeah, the the main problem with Oregon last week is they were not creative or explosive in the offense.
Mm-hmm.
Tez Johnson, like as you said, 13 targets, caught 12 of them, but I mean, he was basically playing running back just out wide. The A dot
Yeah.
had to be negative.
Mm-hmm.
And Dylan Gabriel's a guy who can push downfield.
Mm-hmm.
He can run. He's a dynamic quarterback, but he didn't look dynamic last week. Um, the biggest spark I think in the offense, Jordan James looked really good.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but you need to see more from Evan Stewart. Only 2 catches just isn't going to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Boise is a team that I think they're rising. I have somebody who does pure math rankings. It's a power digits on Twitter. It's all math. They take out name and stuff, and they have Boise I think at 17 after last week. Um, I could see Boise pushing Oregon. I still think Oregon's going to come out on top, but if the offense is stale like it was last week, you're right. Genty, he's my RB1, and he's in a tier of his own right now. Um, which I think I think that's going to keep going. They also, Sire Gaines, true freshman, looked really good last week also.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, I think last I saw he was still out, but Breezy Dubar is another explosive running back. I mean, this is
Mm-hmm.
a three-headed monster when they're all healthy. And I think Oregon's defense is great, but you can't stop Genty.
Yeah.
You can only hope to slow him down.
Yeah.
Uh, so I think Boise's going to cover the spread. I'm pretty sure. That's
Yeah.
a bet that I have placed, and I think that there's obviously risk because Oregon can come out firing, but he,
Yeah.
they need to step up.
Now, I know they're in practice this week. They definitely they took it to heart. I know Lanning wasn't going easy on them this week, especially after seeing Boise State Austin Jets run wild in week 1. So I know that's a big part. But outside of Tez Johnson, the big weapons were Kenyon Sadiq and Terrence Ferguson. They're tight ends. So the wide
Right.
receivers were really quiet in this first week. Trayshawn Holden looked good, and then like you said, Evan Stewart, right? He was the talk of the town coming in as the transfer, but yet he was it like they need to focus more plays on him because he saw that kind of be explosive as well. Or maybe what we saw there was really what it was, right? But
Mhm.
I think more shots downfield are needed. We didn't really see that happen a lot. And not that we saw it more with Bo Nix necessarily, but Bo Nix did get Troy Franklin downfield a lot. So that field stretching needs to happen more. Jordan James looked great. Noah Whittington, first game back, he came back from injury, but he looked good when he got his carries,
Yeah.
and so that's a good, nice two-headed monster for them too. Um, but against a team like Boise State, man, when you have a running back like Austin Gentry that can bust out an 80, 90, 100-yard run at any given time because of his speed and his elusiveness and what he can do in the open field, you need to be able to strike. And that's something where Oregon didn't do last week was they just didn't strike effectively. Last year Oregon could strike, you blink and they're already in the end zone. You're like, wait, what
Yeah.
I miss? I felt I could have closed my eyes for 10 seconds and I could have still seen Oregon on the field. Does that, you know what I mean? Like they lost that explosive. Hey, we just didn't see it. And maybe it's going to the Big Ten where their focus was, hey, we need to be physical, right? Going into it. So that was a big part. But man, they had heavy things. So I think Boise State can cover this spread. I hope they don't. I hope Oregon comes out and this is Dan Lanning's wake up to this nation and say, nah, man, we belong in the top 3, if not the 1 overall. And as much as Boise State, if they could shut it down, again, we talk about the wins. If they could keep Gentry to under like 120, that would be a win.
Yeah.
But I think he could run ball and get like 150. But the Oregon State front 7 is really nice. I like the rotations that they have at the defensive line. So if anyone could do it, it's them. But it's gonna be a tough game for them, even that option, in my opinion.
Yeah. No, it's going
Um,
to be a fun game.
2 more here, then I know games are going to be kicking off here soon. But Northern Arizona at Arizona, number 20 overall. Arizona favorite 36.5, minus 36.5. Is there anyone outside of Tet that we need to be talking about, or is Tet just the guy that we just need to watch?
I think the guy throwing him the ball is interesting. No Fifta is a guy that I think could be a fast riser in this quarterback class. We kind of have talked a lot about in the community that this quarterback class is shaky. There's no real clear top guy. I think Carson Beck has been anointed, but I don't think he's earned it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think Fifta could potentially climb into that discussion if he keeps balling out. I know he worked almost exclusively through Tet last week,
Mhm.
but he's a guy I kind of like the way he looks in the pocket. He does get tunnel vision, but I mean, who wouldn't when you have
Mhm.
Tet?
Right.
I'd
Just
also
throw it
have
to him.
tunnel vision. The guy I was throwing to was almost
Yeah,
guaranteed to catch the ball and take it somewhere.
for sure.
Um,
For sure.
but yeah, I think that's the connection that the only one you really have to pay attention to this game. I don't see anyone else on Arizona worth talking about.
Yeah. No, for sure. I mean, Fafita is great. You know, Tet 304 yards last week. And the funny thing is, man, with Tet, I was talking about who's gonna step up and be their wide receiver too. I mean, they don't need it. You know, he showed it last week. You can legit just one wide receiver sets just with Tet out there, and he can still go out there and dominate. So this would be another big week for him. You know, he's definitely wide receiver one to many people. His size is there, the athleticism. The best thing about him, like you think about like a Drake London, someone that's tall as well, that did well, but he didn't have that agility or the elusiveness as much as what Tet does, man. Tet
Yeah,
runs like he's like a 5'11, 5'10 wide receiver with his speed, right? His long
yeah,
strides make it happen, but then his length and his wingspan allows him to go and win contested catches. So he's definitely a wide receiver that can just dominate. Like he's someone that could be the red zone target, but he's also showing that you could throw it to 5 yards out and he's gonna make it a 50-yard play. So he does everything well. Krosky Moret, the running back looked good too. This should be an easy cover for Arizona. Their schedule's got to get harder as we progress because next week they play Kansas State and then they play Utah next. So the next 2 weeks are big, but I think this is another blowout, and I think this is something where I know we talk about not covering the spreads, when it comes to this deep, but I would take Arizona in this. I just don't see Northern Arizona having the firepower to shut down Ted. And maybe they do. Maybe they triple team Ted all game and he's not able to do it. And then we see another wide receiver for Arizona step up, but I just don't see it happening.
yeah. No, I don't think they can. Tet is what we wanted Quentin Johnson to be. He
Right.
just is. He's that huge, while also being quick and elusive guy. He's unreal.
Sure. Sure. Agreed. He might be this year's Brian Thomas Jr. as far as touchdowns, right? He may blow that out the park, to be honest. So
Yeah.
last one here. Utah State at USC, number 13. USC favorite -28. What are your thoughts here?
I like USC a lot in this one. They looked really good last week. The defense was, I think, the story. I don't know, we've never really seen a USC defense like play competitively like that. Miller Moss also looked like a legit quarterback prospect. I kind of wasn't expecting anything. I thought, his job might be in jeopardy after the first couple of weeks, but he looked very good. Another riser to watch. Uh, Kyron Hudson, obviously, those catches were unreal, Ricky Pearsall like.
Mm-hmm.
So I think, the names I kind of want to watch because I don't see this being a super close game. The wide receivers like Zachariah Branch, Deuce Robinson. Is there more in the tank there? Can they go out? Can Branch actually get downfield? And then Quentin Joyner needs to step up. Um, the Woody Marks is nothing special, and if Quentin Joyner can't beat him out, Quentin Joyner he's not going to be a thing. He's just
Yeah.
going to be a home run hitter and maybe an undrafted free agent in a few years.
Yeah. No, I agree. He was someone I took late and Quentin Joyner, so I definitely want to see more on him. But Woody Marks came out and did his thing. But as you said, it was nothing very like special where I was like all over like, oh, he did this to that, but he got it done.
Yeah,
Against week one, I think it's more on the LSU defense just taking a slap on their chin and not doing anything. So that was a big part for me. It's like I just LSU defense just was not there in week one. So this will be interesting because Utah State has some good wide receivers too, in Kyrese White and Jalen Royals. Both of them had touchdowns last week. Kyrese White had 2 and 131 yards. So that'll be big, And what I thought was going to happen last week could happen this week, because last year USC's defense was horrible in the secondary, like horrendous in the secondary. Like anyone could throw on them, a blind person could throw on them. It was so bad last year in the secondary, and these are two wide receivers that can exploit those mismatches and get those gaps, or just find the soft spots in the zone coverage and get those open. So it'll be interesting if Utah State can get that rolling. it could definitely be closer. USC should win. Miller Moss, like you mentioned, did look great. I do want to see more Zachariah Brooks. I know Hudson was the key guy, a lot of it though was I feel like the wide receivers for USC were making a lot of spectacular catches. The ones you see in Madden where your arm goes into your body and you come up with the ball kind of deal, right? It's like
Yeah.
those were the kind of catches I were seeing it. So was it Miller Moss doing great things, or was the wide receivers just showcasing their abilities, right? So I think we're going to see that a little bit more this week. Miller Moss, not take anything away, 378 yards, but this game is not LSU, so it should be better than what it was against LSU, right? So this will be big. It could low key be a shootout, but I think it's gonna come down to USC having too much on offense compared to Utah State, so they should win. I actually don't want to say I'll cover this spread. I just think Utah State can come out here and at least cover the spread. That they won't win, but I think they can at least cover the spread there.
Yeah, it'll be more competitive, I think, than the spread says. But yeah.
Well, there you go. That is the top 25 here for our Debbie game day, man. I appreciate you jumping on. Is there any last minute games before kickoff happens that you're interested in watching today?
Auburn. I want to see those freshmen again. They're kind of they came out and showed out last week. This 2027 rookie class of wide receivers might be the most special class we've had in a while, comparable to this last rookie class.
Yeah.
So I want to watch Auburn again, see if they make some noise again. But and then of course I'm going to be watching BC. But that's not a game that anyone else should have to watch unless you're a BC fan looking for a blowout.
Hey, Thomas Castellanos is a great quarterback there. What I will bring up is this, SEC matchup, South Carolina versus Kentucky. A quarterback I was high on was Lenora Stellars out of South Carolina. Really struggled in week one. That's not getting easier for him. He showed his freshman mistakes, right, that he can do. He showed his footwork that he can extend the play, but he also showed lack of confidence when the pocket was collapsing, I feel. And you just saw some mishaps happen. They still won, but I need to see more in there because he has a talent. It's just raw talent at this point. And then on the Kentucky side of the ball, I know they have a top defensive lineman in Deion Walker, but at the same time, Brock Vandegrift. They have a solid wide receiver room with Jamori Macklin, Barry and Brown, and Dane Key. So they can definitely go out there and dominate, just having it spread the ball around with Brock Vandegrift because he's someone that was from Georgia too, who didn't get his time, so he ended up transferring. A smart move, and now he has the opportunity to go out there in the SEC and showcase his skills. So that's going to be a game I'm watching there too. Spencer, again though, man, I appreciate you coming on. Tell people where they can find you.
Yeah, so you can follow me on Twitter at Buckwild Sports. I'm always tweeting stuff. I got big stuff coming for, got a lot of plans to expand my content. But you can find most of my work right now on the league winners. Talking BC, talking NFL football. Got some Devy stuff coming out, of course. If you're into baseball, I got a top 500 prospect list I'm working on, hoping to release that before the season end. I'm a dual threat in that way. But yeah, hoping to expand. And again, thanks for having me on.
Yeah, bro. No, I appreciate you, man. Fun fact: one of the craziest things I'm in is from this guy Spencer, the League of Leagues, where we have a team for the top four major professional sports, so hockey, baseball, basketball, and football. And the best part is we can make trades. I just traded a hockey player, and I don't know who it was, to be honest. It was our top hockey player though. But I traded him for Angino Smith for Anthony Richardson, and I got a hockey player back. And that was just exciting though, man. Just being able to do that, and whenever I bring it up to people, they're like, "Dude, that's awesome!" Like you could trade Giannis for Anthony Richardson if you want. So I was like, "Yeah, basically,
Yeah.
But so fun league there. But I appreciate you having me on. If y'all don't know Spencer on X, follow him at Buckwild Sports. Great content all around when it comes to the content. In all sports, he dabbles in it all. So definitely someone to go there and follow. This is me, SC Romero. This is a Debbie Game Day. We'll see you next time. Don't forget, if you like what you watch, like, comment, subscribe to the Fantasy Football Universe YouTube channel. We have content coming out all season long, from Debbie to NFL start sits, waiver wire, all those good things. We're there for you. So make sure you like, comment, and subscribe for us. Until next time, for Spencer, for myself, and the Fantasy Football Universe, we'll talk to y'all later.